Hey crafty friends, this is Jenny from crafttestdummies.com, and today I'm going to show you how to take some alcohol inks and glossy paper and acetate, create a beautiful background paper, and then create some gorgeous cards. So I'm going to show you how to do the basic technique, and of course you're going to need 2 to 4 colors of alcohol inks, and that could include any of the mixatives like a pearl or a silver, and you're also going to want some either extender medium or some rubbing alcohol in a mister bottle. Now don't forget to shake things up rapidly because if you have any of the mixatives, that they'll settle to the bottom and they'll be glumpy and that won't make you happy. So we're going to start by just drizzling and dripping our inks on glossy paper. Now you can also use old photo paper. That's what I like to use because mine is kind of going yellow and bad, so it's a way of using up that stock. Or you could work right on a piece of acetate film. So I'm adding on a predominant color, then I'm adding a little bit of a secondary color, and then of course some drips and drops of your tertiary and fourth colors. The only idea that I would give you is make sure you leave a little bit of white space, because as we do the next step where you lay the acetate on top and smish, if you have too much, it's just going to be really, really dark. And if we want this to really have that kind of glowy see-through effect, you should leave a little bit of white space. So as you can see here, I'm just about done adding my sprinkles and splatters of color, and actually it's very pretty just the way it is. I'm adding a little bit of extender medium just to help things blend and flow. But here's the fun part, guys. Take your piece of acetate film or clear plastic. You can even use those pieces of plastic that your clear rubber stamps come on, and you're going to lay it down on top. This is why it's kind of like finger painting. So you just use your fingers and smush those acetate or the alcohol inks around underneath the acetate. And the nice thing is this is not going to ruin your manicure. Yay! So once I've taken and smushed it around, and actually I want to manually move some of that silver, I'm going to carefully lift it up, and you'll see you get some of these cool kind of striated designs, and they're really, really pretty. But what I want is something actually a little more chunky and a little more textural. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit more extender that helps things move around a little bit, and you can pounce it with a blending tool. And as you can see, as the alcohol ink dries, you get some of those kind of nice little gritty textures. But what I really like to do is lay that piece of acetate back down on top and kind of smush it around again, because now the alcohol ink has dried about 50% and it's gotten thicker. So I push it down on top, I smush it, I lift it up, rotate it about 90 degrees, and pat it again. And the more you lift and pat and lift and pat, you're going to get some really cool, yummy textures. So, of course, now that you've made this gorgeous sheet of film, what are you going to do with it? Well, let me show you. I've got a couple ideas. Now, before we dive right in, I want to let you know you need adhesive. So when you work with acetate, you need a clear double-sided adhesive, and you can use a xyron, stick it. Michaels has a version. Sometimes they're called mounting sheets, score tape, even thermal web. But all of these are a double-sided clear adhesive, and that's what's going to work well on your acetate. Okay, so here is a piece of acetate film that is all dry. And if you look carefully, you can kind of tell which side has the ink on it. Actually, this piece, I can tell this is the side that has the ink on it, and this is the shiny side. And when you create, you want to make sure that the shiny side is up so that it doesn't inadvertently scratch off. Now, I've actually been trying to scratch this off, and it is pretty secure, but you know, better safe than sorry. So the first thing I'm doing is running my acetate sheet through the xyron, alcohol ink side down. That way the shiny side is up and the sticky's on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a very simple card by adding some beautiful skeleton leaves. This is a Stampin' Up! Set from a long time ago, and I'm just using archival ink on top of this. But what this is going to do is we're going to place the acetate on top, and those beautiful leaves are going to kind of shine through from the bottom. We love the fact that it is translucent like stained glass. So as I position this on top, you have to be careful. Xyron adhesive is pretty grabby, so lay it down, and then if you need to, trim it up afterwards with some nonstick scissors. Now I'm going to add another layer by stamping on top. And of course, if you're going to stamp on acetate or any other non-porous surface, make sure you use a solvent-based ink. I like the tried and true Stays On, and actually for this technique, I do highly recommend some kind of stamp positioner. Because the acetate is a little slidey, the tendency is to sometimes press too hard and it'll smear. So by using a stamp positioner, I can ink it up, and if I see that it isn't quite as dark or luscious as I want, I can just re-ink, stamp it again in the exact same place, and I don't have any worries about it sliding around. So highly recommend a stamp positioning tool for this technique as well. For this next technique, I've already applied my acetate film onto another piece of just white cardstock, and I'm mounting it on a pretty piece of background paper. And I think it's kind of nice sometimes to pick a color of the ink and then put it on a mat. It just really kind of helps it pop. But what I want to show you is that you can actually go ahead and add something on top. I have this nice little focal area in the bottom right hand corner, just perfect for this lacy fancy die cut from Hero Arts. So I'm going to go ahead and use a really nice liquid glue on this acetate, but it has to be a glue that has a pretty good grab, and I love the On Point glue, not only because it grabs non-porous things like sequins and flatback crystals, but it also has this super teeny tiny tip that lets me get into all of those little nooks and crannies, and it has that nice pin so that it never clogs. Now here's a little tip. Use the release paper from the Xyron or your double-sided adhesive, place it on top of your die cut, and give it a little massage. We know that that paper is a release paper, so it won't stick, and it'll help keep your die cuts adhering all the way down, at least until the glue starts to dry just a little bit so that it grabs. Now once again, I'm going to add a sentiment. This one comes from a My Hero card kit of the month club or stamp of the month club. And I'm just kind of, again, auditioning it here. Once again, you are going to want to use your Stays On ink or other solvent-based ink. Also, I highly recommend using multiple magnets because the Stays On evaporates so quickly. It will grab that acetate and you may not get a nice clear impression. So use extra magnets and use your stamp positioning tool so that you can re-ink it a couple times so that you get that nice black impression that you want. Okay, and for our last design, we're going to go back to using the stamping first and then layering on top it in a slightly different way. So first I'm using this lovely kind of again a skeleton leaf. I'm kind of going over the edge of an open card because I kind of want it to wrap around the back. And then what I've done is I've cut my acetate into 2-inch squares. And depending on the size of your card, you may want to go larger or smaller. But I've also then run them through the Xyron or applied my clear adhesive on the back. And now I'm applying them to the front almost as if I was doing a watercolor ink block design. So I love the fact that it is shiny. By the way, if you go over the edge, again, just trim it with your nonstick scissors, and then you can still layer another sentiment on top, like I did here, cutting out some nice shiny vinyl. Or you could use any other die cut sentiment. Well, I hope you enjoyed this technique demo and some ideas on how to use lovely alcohol ink dyed acetate sheets. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and as always, have a crafty day.